After Mia lost her teenage son in a car accident, the grief didn't ebb with time the way others said it would. A year passed, then 2, and she still woke up every day with a crushing weight on her chest. She withdrew from friends, avoided conversations about the future, and felt as though life had just lost its color. People around her seemed to move on, suggesting therapy, distractions, or even new hobbies, but nothing could touch the ache she carried. Her grief wasn't a phase. It was an enduring companion that kept her stuck. Eventually, a therapist helped her recognize that what she was experiencing wasn't too much grieving. It was prolonged grief disorder. Welcome to this mini-series on understanding the language of grief, loss, and trauma. My name is Nathalie Himmelrich. I'm a somatic practitioner, psychological therapist, educator, and author, specializing in grief and trauma, and the host of the How to Deal with Grief and Trauma podcast. Grief and trauma are deeply human experiences, yet many of us struggle to describe what we are going through or to understand what others are facing. The vocabulary of loss is vast, varied, and sometimes overwhelming. In this short podcast episode series, we'll explore the different types of grief, loss, and trauma that people encounter throughout life. Each mini-episode serves both as an educational tool and a compassionate companion for anyone trying to make sense of their own experience with grief, loss, and trauma, or someone who is supporting someone else who is. These terms are more than labels. They are doorways into greater understanding, healing, and connection. Whether you are a bereaved parent, a caregiver, a therapist, or someone walking alongside a grieving friend or someone who has experienced trauma, these bite-sized episodes aim to give you language, insight, and tools. Each one includes a definition, some key considerations, an explanation of why it matters, relevant podcast episodes, and frequently asked questions that I have been asked by my clients and you, the listener of the podcast. And my answers are all grounded in both professional and lived experience. So let's begin. Complicated or prolonged grief is a persistent and disruptive form of mourning that extends beyond what is considered typical and prevents a person from resuming their life. Officially known as in the clinical settings as prolonged grief disorder, PGD, this type of grief lasts well beyond 6 to 12 months and continues to interfere significantly with daily functioning. The 6 to 12 months time frame for this disorder also plays an important role in healthcare payment and insurance coverage in many countries, particularly those with a structured mental health billing system. Prolonged grief disorder includes intense longing, preoccupation with the deceased, emotional numbness, and an inability to engage with life. This type of grief is not simply about grieving for a long time. It's about feeling stuck in the grieving process, like emotionally paralyzed or like unable to find joy or meaning again. Common experiences include feelings as though life has stopped or being unable to accept the death and having an ongoing sense of disbelief or injustice. This can also show up as avoiding reminders of the person or conversely being unable to stop reliving memories. The risk of depression, substance use, isolation, and physical illness may increase if this grief remains unaddressed. Prolonged grief can feel shameful, especially in cultures that value emotional resilience and quick recovery. Individuals with complicated grief often fear they are failing at grief or they worry they are broken. But prolonged grief is not a character flaw. It's really a mental health condition, and it really deserves compassionate support and intervention. So recognizing the symptoms can help those affected seek out specialized grief therapy and avoid further complications such as major depression and being able to reconnect with a sense of meaning and possibility over time. I have yet to speak with someone for the podcast on the topic of prolonged grief. As you might imagine, it's something that people, as I said, feel ashamed about and not really openly talking about it, or they might feel that they can't be helped. So if you know someone or believe someone is in this experience of prolonged grief and they might be able to speak openly about it, let them know about the podcast or introduce us. So some of the questions that I'm asked repeatedly is this a disorder? Yes, and as of 2022, the World Health Organization and the DSM-5 have officially recognized prolonged grief disorder as a clinical condition. And that has to do, as I said, with the mental health organization and the payment system behind that. So if it is a disorder, then people can ask for help and their medical bills will be paid in certain countries. So check out what it is in your country. Another question that often comes is therapy necessary? Many people in the stage of, many people dealing with prolonged grief disorder, they feel that nothing can help them, but actually therapy can be extremely beneficial, particularly and importantly when it involves clinicians that are trained in grief-specific approaches. How do I know I have prolonged grief? So if your grief is interfering with daily functioning more than a year after the loss, and you feel stuck in sadness or longing or avoidance, please consider talking to a professional. Some people ask also for friends, can medication help? So while medication is not the first line of treatment for prolonged grief, it may be prescribed if symptoms of depression or anxiety are also present. And as I said before, many people feel that nothing can help them, but the question that should be asked is recovery possible? And the answer is yes. With the right kind of support and care, people can move through prolonged grief and begin to re-engage with life, love, and purpose, even while still carrying their loss. In the next episode, I'm going to be speaking to cumulative grief. I hope this episode has helped you feel more grounded in the language of loss, grief, or trauma, and maybe even offered you some clarity, validation, or insight into your own experience or the experience of someone you care about. Grief and trauma are deeply personal, yet universal. When we can name what we're feeling, we take one powerful step closer to healing and the integration of our experience back into our life. If this series resonates with you, I invite you to keep exploring. You'll find more resources, courses, and ways to work with me at nathaliehimmelrich.com. And of course, you're always welcome to revisit any of the episodes whenever you need a gentle reminder that you're not alone. Until next time, take good care of your heart.